Hello, 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 beautiful, intuitive parents. So I'm jumping in today with a personal share. This is something going on in my life right now that is really hard. And I want to share it because I think it's really inspirational to know that even the people who look on the outside like they've got their shit together and they know everything and they're doing all the right things, every single person in this world right now has their struggles, has their fears, has their problems. You know, all the social media and everything that we see is what is portrayed. It's not the truth. And I am very real about sharing my personal story, being completely authentic about having bad days. You know, I am not the perfect parent. IPIK is not about perfect parenting. It's about being present. So for some of you, you already know this about my family. For others, this will be, completely new, but I just want to give a little bit of background. So I have 3 children. My eldest, Tom, he's 11. I have my middle daughter, Charlotte, or we call her Lottie, is 6. And then my youngest, Isabella, we call her Bella, is 4. Now, Bella has been a very challenging child for me, and has really consistently pushed the edges on what I have been able to cope with in terms of parenting. The fact that she was the 3rd child, so I was already looking after 2 and then had another being to look after, was challenging. For those of you that have multiple children, you'll understand trying to split yourself in several different ways is quite hard sometimes. Also, her behavior has been consistently challenging. Her eating has been consistently challenging. Her sleeping has been consistently challenging. And it has been really exhausting for us as parents, trying to navigate her life and supporting her in the best way that we can. So initially, as a mum, I've already got 2 kids that were fairly easy. Tom was really easy. Lottie was a little bit more, I was almost prepared. The more children I had, the worse it got. But it absolutely was put down to things like, oh, she's teething. Oh, she's just a colicky baby. So many different things as a mum that you're trying to work out what is going on, like what is going on. And I actually spent a lot of time in healing work with her, kinesiology. We looked at her gut flora, really trying to get to grips with what it was that was causing these behaviors that, seemed really unmanageable. And, what I would class as not normal. Having 2 children already, of course, there was a bit of a benchmark. So for me, looking at it was like, oh, she's not doing what they did. And again, most of the time, just put it down to the fact that, she was little and she was struggling. And then we got to the terrible 2s and we had tantrums. And it wasn't until a certain point where I ran out of ideas. I was like, I have done everything I can think of. And look, there were lots of periods where things would improve and then they'd get worse. And then they'd improve and I'd be like, yes, we've grown out of it. And then it would come back. And I spoke to a lot of my friends about it, different practitioners. We ended up going down to see the doctor because I was like, something is not right. And when it really hit a point that she started self-harming with these tantrums, I was like, this is not okay. Like I physically am a incredibly aware parent and I can't help her with this. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I didn't get anywhere. It was like, we don't know. We don't know what's wrong with her. We don't know why she's doing this. And through some connections I've made, the pennies just began to drop in when I started learning and researching about something called pathological demand avoidance. And it was actually a friend of mine who had a son who had much older, who had similar behaviors that was told about it. And she said to me, I really think you should look into this for Bella. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, that is her, like 110%. And so Bella's condition, it's considered an autism spectrum disorder, although that's just a box as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure that she specifically is autistic. And certainly PDA is not a behavior that is traditionally seen as autism. It's the complete opposite set of behaviors. I think they just don't know how to label it, so they've stuck it in that box for now. But you can't treat it with the same activities or ideas or tools as you would with autism. It has to be dealt with in a very, very different way. But essentially what it means is that Bella's nervous system does not cope in situations where she is being asked to do something. So any time that I'm asking her to do something, or anyone is asking her to do something, she will go into, in her brain, a fight-flight response. She will start to produce hormones that are running adrenaline in her system and creating this anxiety within her. And that can look in different ways. Sometimes it looks like absolute point-blank refusal to do something. Sometimes it will look like the fight, having the tantrum. Sometimes it will look actually like freezing. Like she would just stop and look, and just that was it. Like there's nothing, you wouldn't get anything out of it. Sometimes it looks like fawning, which is where we fall into being appeasing, doing the thing, doing whatever it is that needs to be done in order to avoid any confrontation. So there are lots of different ways that this can play out. And last year, when she got to the point where she was going to kindy, we did persevere. At that point, I did not know that this was what was going on for her. And I haven't had her formally diagnosed because it's a very long-winded, drawn-out process. And quite honestly, I don't need a label to tell me what's going on. But when we started kindy last year, it was at a point where I didn't have this knowledge. And so I just persevered. I was like, she'll get used to it. It will be fine. And what children with PDA do is they go into the external environment, so to school, to clubs, to anywhere where they're not at home in a safe, what they consider a safe space, and they will be the perfect child. You will not know that there is anything wrong with them. So for her entire life, I've been saying to her childminders and carers and the kindy teachers, this is what she's like at home. This is the problems I have. I cannot get her to do anything. She refuses to engage in very, very simple tasks that by the age of 4, she really should be able to do by herself, and they're just like, well, we don't know what you're talking about. She does everything here. Everything we ask her to do, she does. She is so, vibrant and happy. And they're like, we don't see that. And so it's a really, really difficult way to explain it to the professionals or the people who are looking at her because they don't see the behavior. So I've had to film her in these ways of being. I've had to create ways of showing and documenting the behaviors that we're actually experiencing. And so last year we had all of these difficulties, and it got to the point where I found out about PDA, and we almost had created an environment where going to kindy had become normal. It was a habit. Towards the end of the year, she was just used to it. And she'd gotten her energy used to being there. We still had some outbursts and difficulties at home, but it wasn't as bad as the start of the year. So the reason I'm explaining all of this is because we've just had 8 weeks of school holidays. Now, we've been away traveling, we've been at home, we've been doing different things, but Bella's been able to be in her own space, be her own person, and actually enjoy the way she wants to be. We've had very, very few tantrums, outbursts. Bella is a very stubborn character. That's not going to change, and I totally embrace that. She does have tantrums. She doesn't like to do things that you ask her to do. That's all fine, but I consider that completely normal. What isn't normal is night after night after night of screaming. It's beyond a tantrum. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I would show you on here, but she refuses to wear clothes. So I don't want to get censored for nakedness. But she just screams and screams and screams. I can't get near her. She will kick me. She rips her hair out. She will scratch herself. She pulls at her skin. She will completely trash her bedroom. We haven't had any of these behaviors over the school holidays. She went back to kindy 2 weeks ago, and the behaviors have all started again. And so as an intuitive parent, I have to make a choice. I have to decide whether I keep her at kindy and we muddle through like we did last year, and she gets used to it and she becomes more habituated to the overstimulation that's going on, because that's all it is. She's just overstimulated. She holds it together in that environment. It's all new. There's different people, and then she comes home and just cannot cope. And so her coping strategy is to be in control. I have to control everything. And every single night we're having these huge meltdowns over the most simple things. The blanket I can't find, brushing her teeth, wanting an extra game that, it's like 10 o'clock at night and I've been playing with her for 3 hours. It just doesn't end. It does not end. It just goes on and on and on. And as soon as I say no, that's the trigger for the eruption. And she just isn't coping. And so for me, I am seeing and holding space for all of this and going, okay, well, as an intuitive parent, what do I do? Like, my heart tells me, take her out of kindy. She doesn't need to be there. Like, that's not the right place for her right now. She doesn't need this extra stimulation. She is so happy in her own space, and we don't have these behaviors when she is in alignment with herself. And so why am I actually forcing her into a box that she doesn't want to be in right now? Doesn't mean she'll never want to be in it, but right now it's just not aligning with her and her energy. And of course, my intuition, my heart, my highest truth is just take her out. But the reality is that I've got people in my ear like, oh, but do you think that's the right decision? She'll never get used to being in a schooling environment. Or, like, what if she then can't cope with life because, at the age of 4, she hasn't been to kindy? Like, there's lots of reasons why you start second guessing yourself and thinking, shit, like, is that the right choice? Am I going to have a negative impact on her life because I'm not making her get used to these behaviors? So I'm just holding this in my awareness at the moment as an intuitive parent, going, well, do I or don't I make the decision to be in my truth, be in alignment with my heart? And knowing what I know and having had multiple experiences where I got to choose, I know full well that making the choice in alignment with that space, with that intuitive knowing, is the right thing. And I will do that, because really the most important thing to me is that she is happy and is coping. And it's actually funny, because over the school holidays, I began to question myself, thinking maybe she really doesn't have this condition at all. Maybe, because we'd not seen it. We hadn't had any problems. But actually what I realized is the environment that she was in was supporting her, was keeping her nervous system in a space of, function that didn't require her to be in control all the time. And now that she's not in that environment, actually all of these behaviors are coming in because she can't regulate herself. It's too overwhelming. So yes, she struggles. She has these challenges. And right now it is beyond challenging. It's beyond, feeling like I want to cope with it, because it's so distressing to watch your child physically trying to harm themselves because she is so, I don't even know what it is, angry, upset, fearful. She can't express it. She can't tell me what the problem is. So the reason I'm sharing this is because I want you to know that on the outside, it might look like, oh, I'm this incredible intuitive parent, I don't have any problems, but that's bullshit. Like, I make decisions every single day in alignment with my truth, in alignment with my intuition about what's the right thing for my kids. Some of you will remember exactly the same scenario when I had Lottie in school, and it didn't feel right for me. And I persevered and I put her in for the first term. And it was such a big deal to make the decision to homeschool her, even though I was already homeschooling Tom. I was already a homeschooling parent. It was still a massive decision. I had all these stories in my mind about why it wouldn't be a good idea. And so I'm really sharing this because intuitive parenting is not easy. It's not like, oh, well, I just know in my heart that's the right choice. It doesn't always feel like that. There's lots of little voices that jump in going, that's a really stupid decision. If you do that, then people are going to think this. Or maybe people even say that to you. Why are you doing that? Like, God, did you know like your kids are going to be socially inadequate because they're homeschooled? I mean, that's a classic one. But I really want you to hold this in your awareness that no matter what decisions you make, if you always make them in alignment with your gut and your intuition and your highest truth, it will always work out because the universe holds you and your kids in this space. And so for me right now, this is the decision that I'm having to make. I'm having to choose the best way to navigate this and support Bella as best I can, and myself and the rest of the family. And it's hard, I'm tired. Like, it is full on. But every single moment that I make those choices and take those steps in alignment with my truth, the more and more and more I am supporting them to be the best versions of themselves. They are learning that anything in alignment with truth will always work out. It's always supported. There's always love and connection to be found in that beautiful way of being. So I hope that sharing this really highlights that, first of all, what you see is not always what is going on. Like, there are so many Insta photos and perfect little, Facebook profiles that make life look wonderful. Everybody struggles. No one is perfect, and we're all dealing with our own stresses and our own, challenges in life. That is life. So first of all, don't ever think that you're any different to me, because we all are going through, different things. And secondly, that you feel inspired to actually trust your intuition when you're making decisions for your kids and for your family, because it's so easy to let the voices take over and put your kids in an environment that you don't want them to be in because you feel guilty or shamed or judged. And I want you to hold the truth that actually what your gut is telling you is right. And often what your mind is telling you is a story. And you get to choose. And I can tell you hand on heart from all the years I've been doing this and from my experiences that every single time I've trusted my intuition and taken a step forward, it's worked out. And often way better than the times that I decided to do it anyway, even though my gut was saying don't. Things ended up not being so great. So, I just want you to know that every decision you make in alignment with your intuition will be successful. And for those of you that are struggling and, have decisions to make with your children, you're doing a good job. It doesn't matter actually what decisions you make, as long as you hold space for those decisions, and you can always change them. They're not set in stone. You can always change your mind. So beautiful Bella, my beautiful starseed, who has come here to really challenge and push our family into a completely new way of being, completely coincidental, but having our life in the van and moving into a motorhome is perfect for her. It's exactly what she needs. She needs to be in that environment. That was not created for her, and yet it's intuitively decisions we've made that will suit her perfectly. So every intuitive decision you make is moving you in the right direction. So big love to you all, and I will jump in again soon. Mwah.